Welcome to One Book, One Coffee. Today, you've decided to spend your precious time with The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck by Mark Manson. This choice sets you apart. While the world scrolls endlessly through social feeds or dives into yet another binge-worthy series, you've chosen to invest in something more meaningful, self-growth and understanding. That's a decision that speaks volumes about your priorities. This book breaks away from the often superficial positivity that dominates self-help literature, challenging us instead to focus on what truly matters in life. It's a refreshing perspective, blending humor with deep insights that cut through the noise. Renowned thinkers like Tim Ferriss have praised its raw honesty and practical wisdom, acknowledging how Manson's approach resonates with a wide audience seeking clarity in a world overwhelmed with choices. Mark Manson, the author, is a blogger turned best-selling author whose candid and straightforward style has struck a chord with millions. His own journey through personal struggles and relentless self-discovery led him to write this book, offering a no-nonsense guide to figuring out our priorities. Now, a quick note before we dive in. This is a detailed chapter-by-chapter walkthrough, so it's going to be a longer session. Take your time with it. There's no rush. If you need to step away, save this video to your watch later or forward the link to yourself on WhatsApp so you can pick up right where you left off. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's walk through this book together, chapter by chapter, idea by idea. Let's begin. Finding clarity in chaos. Mark Manson's journey from a struggling blogger to a best-selling author was fueled by his quest for authenticity. His candid writing style emerged from his own life experiences, failures, and a relentless pursuit of truth over superficiality. This book stems from his realization that not everything needs to matter, and the key to a fulfilled life is caring about the right things. Jason. Narration. Hey there, welcome back to One Book, One Coffee, where we dive into the pages of thought-provoking books over a cozy cup. Today, we're diving into a refreshing and perhaps unconventional perspective from Mark Manson in the first chapter of his bestseller, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck. This chapter sets the tone with the deceptively simple phrase, /don't try /. Now, that might sound a bit counterintuitive at first, right? We live in a world that applauds hustle, where the mantra never give up is practically etched into our morning lattes. But Manson's point is not to promote laziness or apathy. It's to encourage a shift in how we perceive success and happiness. And so, let's break it down. Manson starts with a story about Charles Bukowski, the notorious poet and novelist, who seemed to have lived his life as a contradiction to the glamorous success narrative. Bukowski was a man who was essentially a chronic drunk, a serial womanizer, and a gambler. Society would label him a loser, and by conventional standards maybe he was. But here's the thing. Bukowski didn't idolize success. On his tombstone he had written /don't try not in a defeatist why bother sense, but more so in a way that mocks the superficial chase for success that never truly fulfills. And now, think about this. How much of our energy do we spend chasing ideals that are, frankly, impossible to achieve? The perfect body, the perfect career, the flawless social media feed, it's a trap. Manson argues that our pursuit of these ideals often leads to stress and dissatisfaction because they are endless. We achieve one goal, only to find another one waiting on the horizon. It's like running a race with no finish line. And instead of constantly striving for more, Manson encourages us to embrace who we are, warts and all, and to focus on the things that truly matter. He posits that only by accepting our limitations can we actually begin to work on them. It's a bit like gardening. You can't transform rocky soil into a lush oasis overnight. You have to work with the earth you have, improve it step by step, understanding its limitations and its potential. And Manson suggests that the key to a fulfilling life is not chasing an unattainable ideal, but prioritizing what you value. It's about picking the problems you want to solve, not those society dictates you should. Think of it as being less about checking off a societal to-do list and more about crafting a life that resonates with your authentic self. Let's bring this concept into the modern world. Imagine you're on social media. You see friends traveling to exotic places, getting promotions, buying new houses. It's easy to feel like you're missing out or not doing enough. But Manson would ask, what do you care about? Is it truly about keeping up with this highlight reel? Or is it about enriching your own experience in a way that aligns with your true values? N. Here's a practical example. Take Jane, a young professional who spent years pursuing a high-powered career because that was the expectation set by her family, society, and yes, the countless inspirational quotes that flooded her Instagram feed. But Jane found herself burnt out and unhappy. Upon reflection, she realized what mattered most to her was not climbing the corporate ladder, but actually making a difference in her community. By aligning her career with her values, she found more satisfaction and less stress. Manson's point is clear. It's not about giving up. It's about being selective with your energy and focus. N. Now, let's talk about the American dream, an ideal that has sculpted much of modern societal values. It's a perfect example of this endless chase. The dream suggests that success is about acquiring more wealth, more status, more possessions. But Manson challenges us to redefine success on our own terms. Maybe it's not about the house with the white picket fence, but about the freedom to spend time with loved ones or to travel. Maybe success is, quite simply, contentment. N. The chapter finishes with an empowering realization, understanding that the struggle is inherent to life, and it's through this struggle that we grow. Manson is not advocating for nihilism or defeat. He's suggesting that by accepting the inherent difficulties of life, we open ourselves up to genuine experiences and personal growth. It's about finding joy in the journey, even when it's messy and imperfect. N. As we wrap up our coffee chat on this chapter, consider what values are truly yours and which are imposed upon you. Are you spending your energy on things that genuinely matter to you, or are you caught in the whirlwind of society's expectations? By choosing to care deeply about only what aligns with your values, you're not just lightening your load, you're paving the way to a more authentic, fulfilling life. N. Thanks for joining me in unraveling Manson's insights today. Until next time, grab another cup of coffee, and let's keep exploring the unconventional paths to happiness and fulfillment together. Jason. Narration. Hey there, fellow coffee lover. Picture this. You're sitting across from a friend at your favorite coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed espresso swirling around you. You're both in deep conversation, mugs warming your hands as the world outside seems to shrink away. The topic at hand, a concept that might just change the way you view happiness forever. Ready? Let's dive into Chapter 2 of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, intriguingly titled Happiness is a Problem. N. Now, take a moment to think about how often you've heard people say they just want to be happy. It's probably a lot, right? But have you ever stopped to wonder what that really means? Manson kicks things off by flipping the idea of happiness on its head. He suggests that happiness isn't something you find by running away from problems or by putting on blinders to avoid life's challenges. Instead, happiness, real happiness, emerges from solving those very problems. N. Let's zoom in on this for a second. Imagine life as a garden. You can choose to see the weeds as a nuisance, something to be ignored or avoided. Or you can roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, yanking out those weeds to make room for the flowers and vegetables you want to thrive. Manson's point is that happiness works the same way. It's not about avoiding the tough stuff. It's about dealing with it head-on, finding solutions, and in doing so, allowing the garden of your life to flourish. N. Now, think about this. Have you ever noticed how often we're encouraged to avoid discomfort? Ads promise quick fixes for everything from weight loss to financial woes. Social media shows us highlight reels of perfect, problem-free lives. But as Manson points out, this avoidance is a trap. It leads us to chase after illusions that never really hold the key to lasting happiness. And he brings this idea to life with the story of the disappointment panda, a superhero with a unique power, telling people truths they don't want to hear. Imagine this. The panda knocks on your door, and when you open it, instead of offering you a miracle cure, he bluntly informs you that the path to happiness involves embracing and solving your problems, however mundane or challenging they might be. It's the kind of wisdom that might sting a little at first, but ultimately, it's liberating. And here's a modern twist that makes Manson's idea even more relevant today. Consider the rise of social media influencers who seem to live in a constant state of bliss. They show us a picture-perfect world devoid of struggle. But if we dig deeper, we often find that what makes them truly content is not the absence of problems, but the unique and difficult journeys they've navigated to get where they are. They're not just selling happiness, they're selling the story of overcoming challenges. And let me share an analogy that Manson uses, which is both vivid and relatable. He likens this constant pursuit of happiness to eating chocolate cake. Imagine eating slice after slice, expecting each bite to bring you joy. At first it might, but soon enough that sweetness turns sickly and you start to feel unwell. The same goes for chasing happiness. It's not about more and more of what seems sweet on the surface. True satisfaction comes from finding balance and addressing the core issues that disrupt your life. And Manson's arguments take us deeper by examining a pattern you'll recognize from everyday life. Suppose you're unhappy with your job. The initial reaction might be to avoid thinking about it, numbing yourself with Netflix marathons or retail therapy. But the happiness that comes from avoiding the issue is fleeting, isn't it? Manson advocates for confronting the problem, whether it's through seeking a new role, acquiring new skills, or even changing careers altogether. The act of tackling the issue head-on and finding a solution is what brings about a true sense of fulfillment. And so, why is it that solving problems can be so satisfying? It's because each problem solved adds a meaningful piece to the puzzle of our lives, giving us a sense of progress and growth. It's like leveling up in a video game. Each challenge overcome is a step towards mastering the game. And here's some practical wisdom straight from Manson. Happiness is not a goal that you reach and then just stay there. It's an ongoing process. It's imperfect and messy, much like life itself. But that's what makes it beautiful. By accepting that problems are a constant in our lives, we can start to see them not as obstacles but as opportunities. A chance to learn, adapt, and thrive. And so, what does this mean for you, sitting with your cup of coffee, contemplating life's great mysteries? It means embracing your problems as part of your story. It means recognizing that each problem you solve is like a badge of honor, a testament to your resilience and growth. If you take one thing away from Manson's insights, let it be this. Happiness is not a problem-free existence. It's a state of being that emerges when you face your problems, work through them, and emerge on the other side stronger and wiser. And so, as you sip on your last bit of coffee, let this notion settle in. The next time you encounter a problem, rather than dodging it, lean into it. See it as a chance to cultivate your garden, to yank out those pesky weeds, and to plant the seeds of happiness that will grow and flourish over time. And remember, happiness is not the absence of problems. It's the journey of solving them. And as you get up to leave, maybe you'll look at the world a little differently, ready to embrace the challenges that come your way as opportunities for genuine joy and fulfillment. Until next time, happy problem solving, my friend. Error: I can only provide a summary or analysis, but not the full text narration. Error: request too lengthy to process. Please refine your request to adhere to system constraints. Narration. Imagine you're sitting down, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, as we dive into Chapter 5 of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***CK. This chapter, provocatively titled, You Are Always Choosing, is all about one of life's most liberating yet challenging concepts, accepting responsibility for your choices and their consequences. Picture this: life as a huge buffet brimming with opportunities, decisions, and yes, even the less appetizing moments of failure and discomfort. And like any buffet, you walk through with a plate making choices, some deliberate, some not so much. But here's the kicker. Whether you pick the spicy curry or the plain rice, you own the decision. /n/n now, think about this. How often do we truly acknowledge that every action, every decision is a choice we make? Sure, not everything is within our control. Life throws curveballs, no doubt about it. But our response, that's on us. Manson argues that recognizing this universal truth is the bedrock of personal freedom. It's about adopting a mindset that says, I'm responsible for my choices and therefore, I'm responsible for my life. And while this might sound daunting, it's actually incredibly empowering. /n/n consider the story Manson shares about a man named William James. In his younger days, James was riddled with health issues, career failures, and a profound sense of despair. It got so bad that he wasn't sure if life was worth living. But then, one day, he decided to conduct his own experiment. He would live for one more year under the assumption that he had full control over his life. If things didn't improve, he could always resort to drastic measures. Spoiler alert, they did improve dramatically. James went on to become one of the most influential psychologists of all time. What changed? His perspective. He chose to take responsibility, to act as if his choices mattered. Let's bring this closer to home. Picture a typical day, a missed alarm, a traffic jam, a critical email from your boss. It's easy to fall into a spiral of blame, the alarm clock, the traffic, the workload. But what if instead you saw each of these as choices? You choose how to react to the alarm, maybe setting an earlier one next time. You choose how to spend the time in traffic, perhaps listening to an audiobook. You choose how to handle that email, either as a stressor or an opportunity to demonstrate your capability. /n/n Manson emphasizes that by accepting responsibility, you're not just owning your victories but your failures too. This isn't about self-blame or guilt trips. It's a call to action, a push to steer your own ship rather than be a passive passenger. Think about the ancient Stoics, who preached that while we can't control external events, we can control our reactions to them. This timeless wisdom resonates today more than ever. In a world where we're bombarded by social media highlights of seemingly perfect lives, it's crucial to remember that each of those snapshots is a result of countless choices, some successful, others not so much. /n/n now, let's talk about the consequences of not owning your choices. It's like relinquishing the wheel of your car and then complaining about the direction you're headed. Imagine a friend who constantly gripes about their job but never applies for new positions or acquires new skills. In doing so, they've made a choice to stay stagnant. And while it may feel comfortable to blame the economy or their boss, this mindset strips away their power to change. /n/n on the flip side, embracing this perspective opens up a world of possibilities. Take, for example, the modern gig economy. Here, freelancers navigate uncertainty daily. They choose projects, set their own hours, and decide how to market their skills. By taking ownership of these decisions, they not only earn a living but craft a lifestyle that reflects their priorities. /n/n but let's not sugarcoat it. Accepting responsibility isn't always easy or pleasant. It means confronting uncomfortable truths and acknowledging that sometimes we mess up. But these moments are also our greatest teachers. Manson uses the metaphor of a gardener. A gardener doesn't control the weather or the soil. What they can control is how diligently they tend to their plants, how they respond to setbacks like pests or drought. The gardener doesn't blame the sun for a bad harvest. They learn and adapt. \n in our own lives. Being a gardener means nurturing our priorities and values, despite the unpredictable storms. It's about deciding what truly matters and aligning our choices accordingly. And here's where Manson throws in a dose of practical wisdom. We have a limited number of F***CKS to give. So choose wisely. Focus on what genuinely impacts your life and happiness and let go of the rest. \n as we sip the last of our coffee, let's carry forward this chapter's insights with a fresh perspective. Life, in its complexity, is a series of choices. Some we make consciously, others by default. But each one shapes our path. By owning these choices, we gain the ultimate power to steer our lives towards fulfillment. So here's a thought as we wrap up. The next time you're faced with a decision, big or small, ask yourself, what am I choosing, and am I willing to own the outcome? \n, and with that, let's move forward with a renewed sense of control, ready to embrace whatever comes our way, one choice at a time. Jason. Narration. Welcome to another cozy session of One Book, One Coffee, where today we're diving into a chapter that might just turn your world upside down in the best way possible. Picture this. You're sitting with a warm cup of your favorite brew, and we're about to explore Chapter 6 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***CK by Mark Manson. It's titled You're Wrong About Everything. Bold claim, right? But let me assure you, it's both humbling and liberating. So let's jump in and see how embracing uncertainty and humility can lead to personal growth. \n imagine you're an explorer back in the age of discovery. You're setting sail, ready to conquer the uncharted territories of knowledge, only to find out that the map you trusted isn't as accurate as you thought. Now, how do you react? Do you cling to the old map, insisting it must be right despite the evidence before your eyes? Or do you embrace the uncertainty, trust your instincts, and adapt to your new environment? This metaphor beautifully captures the essence of what Mark Manson is conveying here, the power of acknowledging that we might be wrong. \n now, think about this. Throughout our lives, we inherit a plethora of beliefs about ourselves, others, the world, and even the universe. But here's the kicker, according to Manson. Many of these beliefs are, in fact, wrong or at least incomplete. This isn't a condemnation of our intelligence or our past choices. It's simply a reflection of the human condition. We're constantly learning, evolving, and adapting. And sometimes, what we held as unwavering truths are actually just stepping stones to a deeper understanding. \n Manson invites us to embrace this uncertainty. Why? Because the very act of questioning our beliefs opens up a world of possibilities. Imagine your beliefs as a garden. If you never tend to it, never plant new seeds or pull out the weeds of outdated ideas, it becomes stagnant. But if you allow yourself to prune those old beliefs and plant new ones, your garden, your mind, thrives. \n one powerful story Manson shares is about a man named Hiru Onoda. During World War II, Onoda was a Japanese soldier stationed on an island in the Philippines. When the war ended, Onoda refused to believe it. For nearly 3 decades, he held on to his orders to never surrender. He was wrong, of course, but he clung to his beliefs so fiercely that they defined his reality for 30 years. It wasn't until 1974 that Onoda finally surrendered after his commanding officer personally ordered him. Now consider this. What beliefs are you holding onto that might be outdated or outright incorrect, but you're still clinging to because they once served you? \n Manson argues that the willingness to admit that we're wrong allows us to improve and grow. It's like the concept of beginner's mind in Zen Buddhism, where approaching life with an openness and eagerness, without preconceptions, can lead to greater insights and wisdom. The greatest thinkers and inventors have often been those who dared to say, "I was wrong." Thomas Edison, for instance, tried thousands of filaments before finding the right one for the light bulb. Each failure was a step closer to success, each wrong turn a necessary part of his journey. \n so, how does this apply to us in the modern world? In today's fast-paced, information-heavy landscape, We're inundated with opinions, data, and ever-changing truths. Social media feeds us a constant stream of information, much of which is contradictory. One moment, coffee is good for you. The next, it's not. What do we believe? How do we navigate this sea of uncertainty? N Manson suggests adopting an attitude of skepticism, not the cynical kind, but a healthy skepticism that questions assumptions and considers alternative viewpoints. This doesn't mean we should distrust everything, but rather remain open to the idea that what we know now might change. The beauty of this mindset is that it frees us from the rigidity of having to be right and invites a curious exploration of life's complexities. And think about your last heated debate or argument. Was it about being right, or was it about connecting and understanding each other? Often, we argue to defend our ego, to protect our identity as the one who knows. But what if, instead, we approach discussions with the mindset of a learner? What if, instead of defending our position at all costs, we acknowledged, I might be wrong, and that's okay, N. This is where humility comes into play, a trait that feels increasingly rare in a world where projecting confidence and certainty is often rewarded. But true confidence, as Manson points out, is being comfortable with not having all the answers. It's the ability to say, I don't know, and view it not as a weakness but as a strength. N. To wrap up this enlightening chapter, let's bring it back to our cozy coffee chat. Embracing the possibility of being wrong isn't just about personal growth. It's about living a richer, more connected life. It's about accepting that each of us is on our own journey of discovery, and that journey is far more rewarding when shared with others. N. So, as you sip your coffee and digest these ideas, ask yourself, what beliefs have I been holding onto that might need reevaluation? What new perspectives can I explore today? And most importantly, how can embracing the uncertainty of life lead me to a more fulfilling existence? N. Remember, being wrong isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a new understanding. Here's to the adventure of discovery and the subtle art of not giving a F*** about being wrong. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and savor every sip of this journey with one book, one coffee. Jason. Ration. Welcome back, my friends, to another thoughtful session over a steaming cup of coffee. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 7 of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, a chapter intriguingly titled Failure is the Way Forward. Now, what does this mean exactly? How can failure, something we've been taught to avoid at all costs, actually be the path we need to walk to reach success? N. Imagine, if you will, a child learning to ride a bicycle. With every wobble and fall, the child isn't failing, they're learning. Each scrape and bruise is a step closer to mastering the skill. Manson argues that this childlike spirit of embracing failure is something we lose as adults. We become so fixated on the fear of making mistakes that we often miss the opportunities they provide. N. Let's take a moment to reflect on a classic example from the world of business. Think of Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." What a profound shift in perspective. By redefining what failure means, Edison was able to continue his experiments where others might have given up. This anecdote beautifully illustrates Manson's point. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of the process. N. Now, think about this in your own life. How often have you hesitated to try something new because you were afraid of failing? Maybe it was a job opportunity or a personal project. We tend to idolize the final success stories we see in the media, but forget the countless failures that led there. Manson insists that these failures are not roadblocks but stepping stones. N. In his conversational and no-nonsense style, Manson shares the tale of a musician friend who, despite relentless practice and passion, never quite made it big. Instead of viewing his lack of stardom as a failure, this musician found satisfaction and joy in the process of making music itself. He realized that the value he derived from music wasn't in the fame or fortune, but in the act of creating. This mindset is what Manson urges us to adopt, finding joy and meaning in the process rather than solely in the outcome. /n/n, but of course, embracing failure is easier said than done, right? So how can we shift our mindset to see failure as a positive force? One practical approach Manson suggests is to redefine success and failure for ourselves. He shares a simple yet powerful exercise. List out your goals and then list the potential failures involved in each. By confronting these fears, you can begin to see them in a different light, as challenges to be navigated rather than threats to be avoided. /n/n, let's bring this idea into the modern world. Consider the rise of tech startups. Silicon Valley is renowned for its fail-fast culture, where failure is not just accepted but encouraged as a way to quickly identify what doesn't work. Companies like Slack and Instagram initially started as entirely different products before they pivoted to find success. Their journeys are testament to the fact that failure, when embraced, can lead to unexpected and innovative outcomes. /n/n Manson packs this chapter with insights that resonate deeply with today's hustle culture. He argues that when we obsess over avoiding failure, we end up limiting our experiences and growth. By choosing to care more about avoiding failure than pursuing our dreams, we give our fears undue power over our lives. /n/n to make this more relatable, let's consider the metaphor of a sculptor with a block of marble. Each chisel strike might seem like a mistake, a chip away from the perfection of the block, but those perceived errors are what eventually reveal the sculpture within. Our failures are the chisel strikes of our lives, carving out our character and bringing our potential into the light. /n/n Manson doesn't just leave us with theory. He encourages us to reevaluate our values. If we prioritize learning and growth over comfort and security, failure naturally becomes less daunting. It becomes a natural and necessary part of the journey, and dare I say, something to be welcomed. /n/n as we near the end of this chapter, let's consider an ancient philosophy that aligns beautifully with Manson's modern wisdom. The Stoics believed in the practice of amor fati, the love of one's fate, no matter how challenging. They taught that by accepting and even loving the failures we encounter, we can find peace and resilience in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs. /n/n So, as you finish your coffee and reflect on today's musings, ask yourself, how can you redefine your relationship with failure? How can you see it not as a setback but as a springboard? Remember, each failure is a lesson disguised as a setback, a vital ingredient in the recipe for success. Here's to embracing our failures and moving boldly forward on our paths. Until next time, my friends, keep sipping that coffee and pondering life's subtle art. /n. Jason. Narration. Welcome back, friends, to another cup of wisdom from Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck. Today, we're diving into Chapter 8, The Importance of Saying No. The word no, a tiny two-letter word that holds the power to set us free. But how often do we find ourselves shackled by our reluctance to utter it, perhaps more than we'd like to admit? So let's pull up a chair, pour ourselves a cup, and explore why no is more than just a word. It's a boundary, a declaration of what we will and will not accept in our lives. /n/n Imagine your life as a garden. Every plant you choose to cultivate represents a commitment, an obligation. Some plants, like your family and your passions, are the roses and sunflowers that need your attention and care. But what happens when you allow weeds to grow wild, those commitments that don't serve you, simply because you're too afraid or too polite to say no? Suddenly, you're overwhelmed, unable to nurture what truly matters. That's where the power of saying no comes in. It's like pulling out the weeds to give your roses space to bloom. /n/n Mark Manson challenges us to rethink our relationship with this tiny word. He suggests that our inability to say no often stems from a deep-seated fear. We fear being disliked, of disappointing others, of missing out on opportunities. But by constantly saying yes to others, we're inadvertently saying no to ourselves. And isn't that an injustice to the life we truly want to live? Now, think about this. What if by saying no, you're actually creating room for the yes that truly counts? /N Manson tells us a story about a friend who constantly felt overwhelmed by work, social obligations, and family requests. She was always tired, running on fumes yet unable to slow down. It wasn't until she started to say no to extra shifts at work, no to every single social event, and no to being the family's go-to problem solver that she finally found balance. By clearing her schedule of unnecessary commitments, she had more time and energy for what truly mattered to her, her art and her mental health. Her story is a vivid reminder that saying no isn't selfish, it's necessary. /N have you ever considered why we sometimes say yes when we mean no? Society often conditions us to be agreeable. We're told that saying yes is polite, while saying no is rude or confrontational. But here's the paradox. By constantly saying yes, we may end up feeling resentful, exhausted, and ironically, less agreeable. Manson makes it clear that to truly give a F*** about the things that matter, we must be willing to say no to the things that don't. /N let's draw a parallel to a more modern scenario. Think about your inbox. We're constantly bombarded with emails, each one a request for our attention. If you said yes to every single newsletter, every service, every meeting request, your inbox would overflow, and you'd quickly find yourself drowning in digital clutter. The same goes for our lives. If we say yes to every opportunity, every favor, every societal expectation, we end up overwhelmed. By unsubscribing from the non-essentials, we create space for clarity and focus. /N Mark Manson gives us a practical approach to discerning when to say no. He suggests evaluating our commitments through the lens of our values. Ask yourself, is this request aligned with my priorities? Does it bring me closer to the life I want to live, or is it a detour? By filtering our decisions through our core values, saying no becomes less about rejection and more about affirmation, affirming our commitment to what's truly important. /N think of your values as a compass. When you align your decisions with them, you're navigating life with purpose. Manson likens this to steering a ship. Without a clear course, you're at the mercy of every wind and current. But when you set a destination and say no to everything that veers you off course, you move steadily toward your true north. Isn't it liberating to think that no can be a tool for steering your life? /N and let's not forget that saying no is an art. It's about striking a balance between kindness and firmness. Manson suggests using empathy and honesty as your guide. A heartfelt, "I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I need to focus on my commitments right now," goes a long way. It's possible to say no without burning bridges or creating animosity. In fact, when done right, saying no can earn you respect and clarify your boundaries. /N consider this analogy. Saying yes to everything is like filling your plate at a buffet with everything in sight. Sure, there's variety, but do you enjoy the meal? Or do you end up with a chaotic mix that leaves you unsatisfied? By carefully selecting what goes onto your plate, you savor each bite. The same goes for our commitments. Quality over quantity leads to a more fulfilling life. /N as we wrap up this chapter, let's revisit the heart of Manson's message. Saying no is an expression of self-respect. It's a declaration of what you value. So the next time you find yourself on the brink of saying yes to something that doesn't align with your priorities, pause and consider the garden metaphor. Ask yourself if this commitment is a rose or a weed. And remember, every no is a yes to something greater. /N and I hope this exploration of Chapter 8 leaves you with a sense of empowerment. As you sip your coffee and reflect, think about the boundaries you can set to cultivate a life that truly resonates with your values. Until next time, keep brewing wisdom and living with intention. Cheers. Jason. Narration: Welcome back to another episode of One Book, One Coffee. Today, we're diving into a chapter that tackles a topic we all know but rarely want to face directly: mortality. That's right, we're peeling back the layers of Chapter 9 of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck, titled, "And Then You Die." Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would a self-help book choose to talk about something as grim as death? Well, grab your coffee because we're about to discover how Manson turns this morbid topic into an enlightening conversation about living a meaningful life. /n/and think about this for a moment. How often do you think about your own mortality? Not just in passing, like when you narrowly avoid a car accident or after watching the latest medical drama on TV, but in a way that genuinely shapes how you live your day-to-day life. For many of us, the answer is probably not often. It's human nature to shy away from the idea of our own end. But Manson argues that it's precisely by confronting our mortality that we can truly appreciate life and give it meaning. /n/n to set the stage, Manson shares an insightful story about a young man who finds himself in a hospital staring death in the face after a near-fatal accident. Imagine waking up in a sterile room, the beeping of machines all around you, and the stark realization that your time could be up. In that moment, everything trivial falls away. The young man doesn't think about office politics, social media likes, or even his career aspirations. Instead, he finds himself focused on relationships, the impact he's had on others, and those deep-seated passions that he always put off in favor of more important things. /n/n now, doesn't that make you reevaluate your own priorities? It's a poignant reminder that life has a way of getting us caught up in the minutiae, distracting us from what truly matters. Manson suggests that by keeping our mortality in mind, we can cut through the noise and focus on living authentically. He emphasizes the importance of finding something bigger than ourselves, whether it be relationships, creativity, or community involvement, that gives our lives meaning. /n/n Manson also delves into the concept of legacy, what we leave behind when we're gone. He challenges us to consider, what will your existence have meant? It's a question that might sound daunting, but it's also incredibly freeing. You don't need to be a world leader or a famous artist to leave a meaningful legacy. It could be as simple as being a reliable friend, a supportive parent, or someone who made a positive impact in their community. This idea of legacy ties into the notion of values and how they guide us through life. What do you value most? And how are those values reflected in your daily actions? /n/and let's take a modern example. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, often spoke about how knowing he would die was one of the most significant tools he used to make big life decisions. He famously said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." How liberating is that? By confronting his mortality, Jobs could strip away the fear of failure or judgment and pursue what he truly believed in. This led him to innovate and change the world as we know it. /n/n Manson invites us to adopt a similar mindset, not necessarily to become the next Steve Jobs, but to use the inevitability of death as a compass for what truly matters. It's about recognizing that life is finite and therefore precious. When we come to grips with this, we can start living more deliberately, choosing what we give our F***cks about wisely. /n/n now, let's bring this closer to home. Imagine you're an artist who's always dreamed of painting a mural in your city, but you hesitate, worried about public criticism or failure. Manson would urge you to consider, when you're on your deathbed, will you regret not taking that chance more than you fear judgment right now? It's a powerful shift in perspective that can drive us to take meaningful risks, pursue our passions, and live authentically. /n/n the chapter also touches on the psychological concept of terror management theory, which suggests that humans have the tendency to cling to cultural beliefs and practices as a way to give meaning to life in the face of death. By recognizing this, we can start to question the cultural norms and values we've unconsciously adopted. Are they genuinely ours, or are they simply a way to stave off the existential dread of our mortality? /N Manson doesn't shy away from the fact that accepting mortality is uncomfortable. But it's in this discomfort that growth occurs. Think of it like going to the gym. Embracing the burn in your muscles is what leads to strength and transformation. Similarly, embracing the uncomfortable truth of our mortality can lead us to a more fulfilling life. /N As we wrap up today's narration, let's circle back to the question: what changes when we confront our own mortality? For one, we become more intentional with our time. We start to prioritize quality over quantity, depth over breadth, and authenticity over superficiality. We learn to let go of the trivial and embrace the essential. Manson's insights don't just tell us to not give a F*** about anything, but rather to give a F*** about the right things. /N So, as you go about your day, maybe sip your coffee a little slower, hug your loved ones a little tighter, and ask yourself, what will my existence have meant? Because in the end, it's not the years in your life, but the life in your years that truly counts. /N Thank you for joining us in this warm, introspective conversation. Until next time, keep pondering, keep questioning, and live life with a little more intentionality. Cheers. Narration. Picture this. You're sipping a warm cup of coffee, the aroma gently wafting through the air, as you ponder the age-old question of what truly matters in life. This is the essence of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, particularly when it comes to understanding and aligning yourself with authentic values. Manson invites us to reflect deeply on what values are dictating our lives and whether they resonate with our true selves. But why is this so crucial, you might ask? Because the values we hold dear determine the quality of our life experiences. They shape our decisions, influence our relationships, and ultimately define our happiness. /N Imagine you're a sculptor, and your life is a block of marble. Your values are the chisel, carving out your unique statue. If your chisel is blunt or not quite right for the job, your statue might end up looking like a lopsided mess. Now think about this. How often do you resharpen your chisel or even question if it's the right one? Manson suggests that many of us are using values inherited from others, our parents, society, or past experiences, rather than those we've consciously chosen. /N Let's delve into an anecdote that paints a vivid picture. Manson tells the story of a musician who once dreamt of becoming a rock star. He pursued it with unyielding passion, but after years of struggle and little success, he realized that the lifestyle wasn't aligned with his core values. Instead of fame, he craved creativity and connection. So, he pivoted to a more fulfilling career in teaching music, where he found joy in inspiring others and playing guitar on his own terms. This story serves as a powerful reminder. Success isn't just about achieving goals set by external standards. It's about finding fulfillment in aligning with what we genuinely value. /N Now, consider the hustle culture prevalent in today's world. We're often bombarded with messages equating success to wealth, status, or popularity. But at what cost? Many find themselves burnt out, chasing hollow dreams. Manson argues that real success stems from living a life true to our values. He urges us to ask ourselves, what kind of pain are you willing to endure? Because every pursuit comes with its struggles. If the pain isn't worth it, perhaps the value isn't truly yours. /N A practical approach Manson discusses is conducting a value audit. This involves taking a step back and listing out your core values, then examining if your daily actions and long-term goals align with them. Are you living a life that reflects these values, or are you compromising them for the sake of superficial rewards? For instance, if personal growth is a value, are you continuously learning and challenging yourself, or are you stuck in complacency? If connection is a value, are you nurturing meaningful relationships, or are you isolated behind screens? /N Manson also delves into the concept of good and bad values. Good values, he suggests, are reality-based, socially constructive, and immediate and controllable. Examples include honesty, creativity, and vulnerability. Bad values, on the other hand, are superstitious, socially destructive, and not immediate or controllable, such as dominance and fame. By identifying bad values, we can redirect our energy toward cultivating those that lead to a more authentic and rewarding life. /n/n Think about the metaphor of a compass. Values are the compass that guide us through the dense forest of life. Without them, we're prone to getting lost, chasing after illusions. In today's fast-paced, ever-changing world, having a strong internal compass is more important than ever. It's about navigating the chaos with a sense of purpose and direction. /n/n Let's draw a parallel with the digital age. Social media often distorts our perceptions of values, making us yearn for likes, shares, and virtual validation. But imagine if instead of counting likes, we measured our life by the impact we have on others, the love we give and receive, and the authenticity we bring to our daily interactions. That's the kind of value system that leads to genuine satisfaction, not the fleeting highs of online popularity. /n/n So, how do we cultivate and maintain authentic values? Manson encourages us to face the uncomfortable truth that we may need to let go of certain beliefs and reevaluate our priorities. Change is never easy, but it's necessary for growth. Think of it as pruning a tree. You remove the dead branches to allow new ones to flourish. The same goes for values. By shedding those that no longer serve us, we create space for new, more meaningful ones. /n/n In conclusion, Manson's insights on authentic values compel us to look inward and question the foundation of our priorities. Are we living a life aligned with what truly matters to us, or are we swayed by external pressures and superficial ideals? As you reflect on these questions, remember that aligning with your authentic values is not a destination but a journey, one that requires self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to embrace change. So, take a moment, sip your coffee, and consider, what do you genuinely give a F***ck about? I'm sorry, but I can't provide verbatim text from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck by Mark Manson. However, I can certainly offer a summary in the spirit of the book and create a narrative that captures the tone and insights of the theme, embracing pain, in a warm, conversational manner. Let me know if you would like me to proceed with that. Jason. Narration. All right, so picture this. We're sitting here together, sipping on our morning brew, and we're diving into another intriguing insight from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck by Mark Manson. It's that kind of conversation that makes you stop and ponder, perhaps even challenge the way you've been seeing things. Today, we're tackling the theme of accepting our limitations, an idea that, let's be honest, can be a bit of a tough pill to swallow. But stick with me, because it's in these limitations that we actually find a pathway to focusing on what truly matters. /n/n Now, have you ever felt like you're constantly trying to be everything to everyone? Maybe it seems like there's this invisible rulebook suggesting you should excel in all areas, from your career to relationships, personal achievements, and beyond. It's exhausting, right? Manson introduces us to a liberating notion, embracing your limitations not as weaknesses but as a guidepost to directing your energy wisely. /n/n Imagine for a moment you're juggling multiple balls. Each one represents a different aspect of your life. Your job, family commitments, personal goals, perhaps even that elusive hobby you've been meaning to reignite. The reality, though, you've only got two hands, so what happens? Balls drop, things feel chaotic, and in the end, you're spread so thin that everything gets only a fraction of your attention. This is where accepting limitations plays a pivotal role. /n/n Manson uses a vivid metaphor. Think of your life like a garden. A garden can't sustain every type of plant. It has conditions, certain soils, climates, and resources. Trying to force a cactus to bloom in a rainforest setting just won't work. Instead, focusing on what thrives naturally in your unique environment allows you to cultivate something beautiful. It's not about having every plant imaginable, but rather nurturing the right ones. So, what plants, goals, relationships, passions are you going to nurture in your life's garden? /N/N embracing limitations is about understanding that you can't and shouldn't do it all. Consider this. Olympic athletes focus on one sport, musicians often master one instrument, and businesses succeed by honing in on a niche. The same principle applies to our personal lives. By accepting what we can't do or what doesn't serve us, we free ourselves up to invest deeply in what truly matters. /N/N let's dive a bit deeper with a story. Picture a young professional named Sarah. She's ambitious, driven, and seems to have it all. Yet, Sarah's days are filled with stress, constantly trying to juggle a demanding career, a packed social calendar, and a myriad of personal projects. One day it dawns on her. She's been spreading herself too thin, trying to meet every expectation society has thrown her way. Inspired by the idea of acceptance, Sarah takes a step back and really evaluates what's important to her. In doing so, she lets go of certain commitments, accepts that she can't be everywhere at once, and focuses on her career and close relationships, which bring her the most fulfillment. This shift allows her not only to excel, but to find peace and satisfaction in the areas that truly count. /N/N here's the thing. Accepting limitations isn't about giving up. It's about choosing. It's about deciding what you will prioritize, what battles are worth fighting, and what values you want to stand by. As Manson puts it, we only have so many F***cs to give, so we better make sure we're giving them to the right things. This mindset encourages us to evaluate critically instead of stacking our plates with unnecessary burdens. /N/N in our world today, where there's a constant barrage of information and options, this wisdom has never been more relevant. Social media, for example, can often amplify our perceived limitations. We see highlight reels of everyone's perfect lives and can fall into the trap of thinking we need to match up in every way. But here's where Manson's insight becomes a superpower. By redefining success based on what's genuinely important to us, not societal pressures, we reclaim our own narrative. /N/N think about this. How often do we let fear of missing out drive us to overcommit? We attend events we don't enjoy, take on tasks that deplete us, and pursue goals that aren't aligned with our deepest desires. By acknowledging limitations, we start to operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. We focus on quality over quantity. Does this resonate with you? What areas of your life could benefit from this shift in perspective? /N/N as we wrap up this reflection, consider adopting a practical exercise. Make a list of your top priorities, maybe 3 to 5 things that truly matter to you. For each, ask yourself, what limitations am I facing, and how can I embrace them to channel my energy more effectively? This exercise is like a compass, guiding you through the noise of daily life. /N/N so, as you finish your coffee and step into your day, remember that accepting limitations isn't about settling for less. It's about making space for more focus, more joy, more authenticity. And that, my friend, is the subtle art of not giving a F***, distilled into a principle that can transform the way we engage with our world. Until next time, keep pondering, keep prioritizing, and above all, keep living in alignment with what truly matters to you. Cheers. Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, offers a refreshing perspective on personal development by challenging the conventional wisdom of pursuing happiness and success. Instead, Manson suggests that we focus on what truly matters, acknowledging the inevitability of struggle and embracing the reality of life's limitations. By illustrating the importance of choosing our values wisely and understanding the consequences of our choices, we learn to prioritize what we genuinely care about. Here are some key actionable takeaways from the book. 1. Embrace the struggle *. Manson asserts that suffering is an unavoidable part of life. Approach challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities for growth. Start incredibly small by identifying one minor discomfort you usually avoid and face it head-on. 2. Choose your values wisely. Determine what values are most important to you and ensure they are internally focused rather than relying on external validation. Be patient with yourself as you assess what truly matters. These values will guide your decisions. 3. Accept your limitations. Recognize and accept that you have limitations and that life is finite. This acknowledgement can free you from the pressure of unrealistic expectations. Begin by making peace with one limitation today and watch how it liberates your mindset. 4. Take responsibility. Every action and decision is your responsibility, whether or not the circumstances were within your control. This is empowering. Start small by owning one decision today and reflect on how it shapes your day. 5. Learn to say no asterisk. You cannot care about everything and everyone. Use your no's to protect your time and values. Practice by declining one request or commitment that doesn't align with your core values today. In sum, the book invites us to carefully select what we give our limited F***cs about. Find contentment in life's inherent struggles, and live with intention rather than reaction. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with at least one idea from this book that stuck with you, one concept you're going to carry forward. It could be something that challenged your thinking, something you want to try, or even something you disagreed with. Your insight might be exactly what another listener needs to hear today. And if this summary gave you something valuable, a new perspective, a spark of motivation, or even just a peaceful hour with your coffee, share it with someone who might need it too. Subscribe to One Book, One Coffee, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new summary. Every week, we sit down together with one great book, one warm cup of coffee, and the simple belief that wisdom, shared well, can change lives. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and remember, every small step counts. See you at the next book.